All right. Looks like we're diving into Hatshepsut today.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we're using Hatshepsut Egypt by Kate Pankhurst for this deep dive.
Okay.
It's part of her, fantastically great women series.
Right, right.
Which, as you might have guessed, it's showcases all these inspiring women throughout, history.
Mm-hmm.
And these books are, really colorful, super engaging.
Yeah.
Perfect if you, learning stuff quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But you still want it to be thorough.
Yeah.
But we're not just going to rehash the book, right?
Oh, no.
We're going to, dig into W.H.Y. Hatshepsut's story. It's still, making people talk, centuries later.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how this book actually goes beyond just the, basic facts.
Right.
Yes, Hatshepsut was a female pharaoh in Egypt way back in the 15th century B.C., but that's barely scratching the surface, You really have to picture ancient Egypt. The pharaoh was the top dog, the ultimate ruler,
Right.
king or queen, and it was a society where men mostly called the shots. So for a woman to become pharaoh, let alone rule successfully for, around 20 years, that's a huge deal.
It's like rewriting the history books, almost.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, she wasn't just handed power, she had to really fight for it.
Oh, yeah.
And the book, it kind of dives into her family tree, which, honestly, it's a bit of a soap opera.
I know, right?
There's her father, Thutmose I, who was pharaoh before her.
Yeah.
Then there's her half-brother, and get this, he was also her husband,
Wow.
Thutmose II, who also became pharaoh.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, to complicate things even further, her stepson, Thutmose III, eventually takes over.
Lots of Thutmoses.
So many Thutmose.
Yeah.
Keeping it all straight, it's like who's who.
Yeah. But that's where things get really fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
Back then, marrying within the royal family, even half-siblings,
Yeah.
it wasn't uncommon. It was all about keeping power consolidated.
Makes sense.
So, Hatshepsut's family ties were definitely a boost. But she still had to overcome, the societal norms of the time.
Yeah.
Being a woman in that position.
Yeah.
Practically unheard of.
Yeah, so if we're following the timeline, Hatshepsut starts as regent for the young Thutmose III after his dad, kicks the bucket.
Right.
That's basically a placeholder until he's old enough to rule.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, boom, Hatshepsut declares herself pharaoh.
Just like that.
Yeah. No dilly-dallying, no gradual transition, just straight to the top.
She went for it.
Why the sudden power grab, was it pure ambition?
Well, the book actually leaves a bit of a mystery.
Oh, really?
Which I think is brilliant.
Oh,
it really makes you think critically about the possibilities.
Yeah.
Was there, some crisis going on in Egypt that needed, a strong leader, regardless of gender?
Right.
Was it a totally calculated move? Or was it just, good old-fashioned ambition?
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
You don't know.
But whatever the reason, Hatshepsut clearly knew how to play the game. She adopted all those classic, male pharaoh symbols,
Okay.
the royal clothes, the headdress, even, get this, a fake beard.
Hold on, a fake beard. Was that a fashion statement back then?
Not quite.
Okay.
It was all about optics, you see.
Okay.
Imagine yourself, you're in ancient Egypt. You're used to seeing your pharaoh, always a man, looking a certain way.
Yeah.
So Hatshepsut, by adopting those symbols, she was basically saying, hey, I might be a woman, but I'm your pharaoh now, and I'm here to rule, just like the guys before me.
That's clever.
It was a pretty clever way to solidify her authority.
So instead of trying to change the system, she just worked it to her advantage.
Exactly.
That's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So what kind of ruler was she then? Did she, go on big military campaigns like some of the other pharaohs?
That's actually one of the things that makes Hatshepsut's reign so unique.
Okay.
Instead of conquering new lands, she really focused on peace, building up Egypt's economy, and establishing trade routes. One of her most famous achievements was this huge expedition to the land of Punt.
Hunt?
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
This wasn't about war. It was about bringing back exotic goods and strengthening Egypt's position in the world.
I'm picturing all these ships laden with treasures, spices, maybe even some crazy animals, sailing back to Egypt.
It would have been quite a sight.
Talk about a PR win.
Yeah, exactly.
Did this trade with Punt, did it benefit everyday Egyptians, or was it mainly for the elite?
That's a good question, and it's something historians are still trying to figure out, We know the expedition brought back a ton of luxury goods, ebony, ivory, incense, even exotic animals.
Wow.
But what's interesting is that Hatshepsut also focused on building projects within Egypt,
Right.
constructing temples, monuments.
Right.
This suggests that she was interested in showcasing Egypt's wealth and power.
Yeah.
And likely, those efforts would have had at least some trickle-down effect on the general population.
It's like she was building a brand for Egypt, projecting this image of strength and prosperity to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder how her reign would be viewed if she had been a man doing all these same things.
That's an excellent point.
Right.
And it makes you question whether the attempts to erase her from history after her death
Yeah.
were purely politically motivated, or if there was an element of sexism at play.
It's kind of like a historical mystery.
It really is,
Right.
because, you see, after Hatshepsut's reign, someone went to great lengths to remove her name, her image, from monuments.
Really?
Almost like they wanted to pretend she never existed.
Wow.
It's like a historical whodunit.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize just how easily history can be manipulated.
It makes her story even more fascinating, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We'll dive into that more in just a bit.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's so much more to uncover about this incredible woman.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got this Pharaoh who breaks all the rules, builds up Egypt, and then, poof, practically erased from history.
It really does make you think.
What gives? It's like she got canceled, ancient Egyptian style.
It makes you wonder, right?
Mm.
Were those in power after her just, like, threatened by her success?
Mm-hmm.
Did they feel like they needed to reassert traditional gender roles? Or was it something else entirely?
It's like, we may never know the full story, but that's kind of what makes, studying history so captivating. It's like solving a puzzle, but with, like, missing pieces.
Right, exactly.
It also makes you wonder, if they went to such lengths to erase her, just how impactful was her reign?
Yeah.
What did she actually accomplish that made them so nervous?
Well, besides the Punt expedition, which was a major feat of, diplomacy and logistics,
Yeah.
Hatshepsut oversaw the construction of some serially magnificent temples.
Oh, right.
For example, her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri,
Okay.
it's considered an architectural masterpiece.
I've seen pictures. It's pretty amazing.
Right? Imagine this. A series of terraces built right into the cliffs, and they're adorned with statues and reliefs depicting scenes from her reign.
Wow.
It would have been a sight to behold.
Yeah, it's not just like a pile of rocks. It's art.
Exactly.
So what message was she trying to send with these, like, grand building projects?
I think she was cementing her legacy literally and figuratively.
Okay.
These temples, they weren't just places of worship,
Right.
They were statements of power, prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
They declare to the world, this is Egypt under my rule, and we are a force to be reckoned with.
Powerful stuff.
And let's not forget, these projects would have created jobs, stimulated the economy, benefiting many Egyptians.
So she was thinking long term.
Yeah.
Not just about, her own glory, but about leaving a lasting impact on her people.
Absolutely.
It makes the attempts to erase her even more tragic.
It really does.
But thankfully, her story was rediscovered.
It was.
Later.
Yeah, luckily for us, her story didn't stay buried forever.
How did that happen? Like, how was she rediscovered?
Well, as archaeologists started excavating sites, in the 19th and 20th centuries, they started piecing together the puzzle of Hatshepsut's reign.
Okay.
They found those defaced statues, remnants of inscriptions with her name chiseled out, and eventually they were able to reconstruct her story, revealing her accomplishments to the world.
It's almost like she was, like, waiting to be rediscovered.
It is, isn't it?
Like a time capsule from ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Bursting open, in the modern era.
Right.
And speaking of rediscovering inspiring women, I'm curious about this Fantastically Great Women series.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any other stories in there that you find particularly, like, compelling?
Oh, absolutely. The series features a really incredible array of women from different eras, different backgrounds.
Okay.
There's Harriet Tubman, who risked her life to guide enslaved people to freedom on the Underground Railroad.
Right.
And Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein when she was just 19 years old, challenging the literary norms of her time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space, breaking barriers,
Yeah.
paving the way for future generations of female astronauts.
It's amazing how this series, it manages to capture the essence of these, like, incredible women in such an engaging way.
Yeah, it does.
I bet it sparks a lot of curiosity in, like, young readers,
Oh, I think so.
encouraging them to learn more about these figures
For sure.
and the historical context in which they lived.
It's all about that.
That's the power of storytelling, isn't it?
It is. It really brings history to life.
Yeah.
Makes it relatable, inspiring.
And I think these books are a fantastic resource for anyone, regardless of age,
Oh, absolutely.
who wants to learn more about these like trailblazing women who dared to challenge conventions and make their mark on the world.
Yeah, totally.
And for those who want to dive even deeper, there are plenty of other books and resources available. You know, if you're hooked on Hatshepsut's story, I'd recommend checking out Lady the Reeds or Mara, Daughter of the Nile.
Oh, good ones.
They're fictional,
Right.
but they offer like a glimpse into life in ancient Egypt,
Totally.
which can really enhance your understanding of that time period.
Absolutely.
And for those who are fascinated by the broader theme of women defying societal expectations, Let Me Be Frank is an excellent choice.
Good one.
It delves into the lives of women who, like Hatshepsut, carved their own paths and achieved great things despite the obstacles they faced.
For sure.
So it's not just about learning about individual women.
Right.
It's about understanding the broader context, the challenges they overcame,
Yeah.
and the impact they had on the world.
It's about connecting the dots.
It's about connecting the dots across time
Yeah.
and seeing how these stories continue to, like, resonate today.
They do. They really do.
Exactly. And speaking of connections, did you know that Kate Pankhurst, the author of these books,
Yeah.
is actually related to Emmeline Pankhurst?
No way.
Yeah, a prominent figure in the women's suffrage movement.
That's amazing.
It's quite a legacy.
Wow.
It seems like advocating for women's rights and celebrating their achievements, it runs in the family.
It does, doesn't it?
And it's so cool how she's using her talents to make history, accessible and engaging for a new generation.
Yeah. She's great.
It just goes to show that the fight for equality and representation, it's an ongoing journey.
It is.
And each generation has its own role to play.
And by learning about these incredible women, we can draw inspiration from their courage, their resilience, and their unwavering belief in themselves.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into Hatshepsut's life and legacy, what are the key takeaways we should carry with us?
I think it's crucial to remember that leadership comes in many forms.
Okay.
It's not just about military might or traditional notions of power. Hatshepsut showed us that strength can be diplomacy,
Yeah.
economic prowess, a vision for a prosperous future.
She showed us that challenging the status quo, it doesn't always mean tearing everything down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about working within the system,
Yeah.
finding creative solutions, using your position to enact positive change.
Absolutely.
Her story also highlights the importance of critical thinking.
Oh, for sure.
We can't just accept the historical narratives we're given at face value, right?
No.
We need to dig deeper, question assumptions, be aware of the potential for bias and manipulation.
It's all about perspective.
And perhaps, most importantly, Hatshepsut's story reminds us that individuals, even those who lived centuries ago,
Yeah.
can still have a profound impact on the world.
They can.
Their stories can inspire us, challenge us, and help us to understand ourselves and the world around us a little bit better.
It's a reminder that history is not just a collection of dusty facts and figures,
Right.
but a vibrant tapestry of human experiences, triumphs and struggles,
Yeah.
each with a valuable lesson to teach us.
So, as we leave behind the grandeur of ancient Egypt and the remarkable reign of Hatshepsut, I'm left pondering a question.
Okay.
If Hatshepsut hadn't declared herself Pharaoh, how would Egyptian history have unfolded? Would Thutmose III have achieved the same level of success?
It's interesting to think about.
Would Egypt have flourished in the same way?
Oh.
It's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you wonder about all the what-ifs throughout history and the ripple effect of individual choices.
Yeah.
And while we can't change the past, we can learn from it, draw inspiration from those who came before us, and strive to make our own mark on the world.
And that's the beauty of exploring history, isn't it?
It is.
It opens our minds to new possibilities,
Yeah.
challenges our assumptions,
For sure.
and encourages us to see the world through a different lens.
It's a journey of discovery.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we could share this particular leg of the journey with you.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, if one person, especially a woman back then, could have such a huge impact, what does that say about the potential we all have, to really shape the world?
It's a powerful reminder, for sure. And, it's not always about those big, grand gestures. It's not about, becoming a pharaoh.
Yeah.
It's about, Those smaller choices we make every day, the way we treat each other, the ideas we choose to get behind, the actions we take, it's all connected.
It's those smaller things that add up.
Yeah, those seemingly small things, they can have a ripple effect, create change in ways we might not even fully realize.
It's like the butterfly effect.
Exactly.
One little flap of a butterfly's wings can set off like this whole chain reaction
Exactly.
leading to something massive somewhere else.
And it really makes you wonder, like, what ripples are we creating right now with our own lives? It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
It is.
And I think Hatshepsut's story also, it challenges us to kind of look beyond those traditional narratives of history, the ones that usually focus on battles and conquests.
Right.
You know, her story is a reminder that progress can also happen through peace, through diplomacy, economic growth, and cultural development.
Yeah, things we could use a lot more of today, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what makes Hatshepsut so relevant. It's not just this, like, dusty old tale from the past.
No.
It's a story that speaks to the challenges and the opportunities that we face even now.
Completely agree.
And, as we're kind of wrapping up this deep dive, there's one more thing I want to, emphasize.
Yeah.
It's something we touched on a little earlier.
Yeah.
But it's worth, repeating. The whole idea of critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to history.
It's so important.
We have to remember that history is often written by the victors. And their version of the story might not always, reflect the whole truth.
Right, exactly.
Or represent all the different perspectives.
So we can't just passively take in information, right?
We can't.
We got to actively engage with it, question it, seek out other viewpoints, try to really understand how complex the past can be.
Yeah, otherwise we're just, perpetuating those biased or incomplete narratives.
Exactly.
So as you continue to learn about Hatshepsut or any other historical figure, remember to approach the information with, a critical eye.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, who wrote this? What are their biases? Are there any perspectives missing?
Good questions.
Those kinds of questions can lead you down some really fascinating paths of discovery.
It's true. It's like becoming a historical detective.
Yeah.
Piecing together the evidence, looking for clues, and coming to your own conclusions.
Yeah, it makes history so much more engaging.
Oh, absolutely.
Than just memorizing names and dates.
For sure.
So, as you go about your day, I want you to keep Hatshepsut's story in mind. Let it inspire you to challenge those assumptions, to seek out knowledge.
Yeah.
And to make your own, unique contribution to the world.
Because who knows, maybe centuries from now,
Right.
someone will be digging into your story.
Yeah.
Trying to understand the impact you had on the world.
And wouldn't that be something?
It would.
To leave behind a legacy worth remembering.
Yeah.
A story that inspires future generations.
That's the dream.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the extraordinary life of Hatshepsut.
It's been a good one.
We hope you enjoyed the journey.
I did.
And learned a thing or two along the way.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah?
There's a whole world of fascinating history out there, just waiting to be explored.
So keep asking those questions, keep learning, and keep challenging yourself to see the world with, fresh eyes.
I love that.
Until next time, happy exploring.